All right, time for another video. Real quick recap on what our previous videos have been. So far we've discussed text editors, languages, sources you can use to learn this stuff. Um, the fact that if you're going to learn C++, you're going to have to download C++ with a compiler. We haven't covered much of any of that yet. I just kind of mentioned it. And that is a complicated process right there by itself. Um, Probably something I should cover eventually, but I haven't covered it yet. As well as, so we've covered sections known as, for W3 schools, home, intro, getting started, syntax, output, how to create new lines in your output, whatnot, sort of things. So let's just jump right in here and keep going with this. If you want to kind of know what to do prior to this video, if this is the first video you're watching and stuff, you're going to see the previous videos in order to catch up with what I've got right now. And yes, these videos are kind of getting long, but C++ was stated in these website that I'm using right now that it's an easy language to learn. And yeah, it kind of is, but it's kind of not, in my opinion. So let's just jump right in here. Get started with this. Like I said, for any code you want to learn how to write, you're going to need a text editor. That's covered in other videos. Depending on what you're writing or what you're learning and stuff, will be based on that. I don't have any experience with any other kind of editor besides VS Code and Notepad. Um, I would like to see more videos out there and stuff of using different editors for C++. But I haven't seen a whole lot yet. Maybe I just haven't looked because I've been more focused on learning C++ than I have been about the editors itself. So maybe it's something I'll get into farther down the road. Right now, it's my journey through C++, learning it, understanding it, figuring out how it works, figuring out how to make programs. Um, let's jump over to this right here. So this is the last code we had in our previous one, and right now all we've learned how to do is pretty much create the code. We are basically simply copying the code from W3 Schools to our text editor and learning about it that way. We have discussed how to get it to print out to terminals, but we have not really gone through how to get it to come up in Windows. So let's do that right quick. So if you open up your files and stuff and you actually go to the location of the file itself, this one is Learn C++. So we're going to go to that folder right there, open it up. This one is called, oh, we created another one right here. We're going to get rid of this one right here. We don't need it. I know what this one's from, but we don't need it. So we're going to ignore that. Yes, we're going to move it to the recycling bin because we don't need it. Okay, so we got the folder open now. We got two different things here. Actually, three different things here. We've also got three different things here. This one right here, just ignore this for now. I don't fully understand what's inside this folder. I just do know that what is inside this folder is needed to get these programs to run. In fact, we can open it up right here and kind of see its task.json. So it's a JSON file is what it is. Without the JSON file, we would not be able to have the exe file. We can remove both of these right here, for example. Let's go ahead and do that. Just to demonstrate, we'll delete that, move that to recycling bin, and we'll go ahead and remove this, delete that, move it to the recycling bin to where, and we'll go ahead and get rid of this too. Delete, move that to recycling bin. Now we're just starting off with a simple thing right here. Same thing we have in here. We got the folder, which is what's open up right here. We got our file right here, our source file where the code is, okay? Now, what if we want to get this to actually open up in a window? So this right here is a window. Right now, the only thing we've learned is how to get it to come up in terminal down here below. Kind of the same thing as your command prompt terminal. But what if we wanted to open up in a window like this right here? This is something that it took me a while to figure out how to do because there was no real good videos on this that I could find at the time. I think I used sources as including AI, maybe even Cherno's YouTube videos to figure out how to do this. But I can't not remember exactly. But I'm going to walk you through this anyway. So if we want to open up a window and have our program run in its own separate window like this right here, then this is what we do. First off, let's go ahead and downsize this and get this out of the way. Go ahead and close this up. First thing we need to do is if we run the code, we get this down here. After we run the code, we get this up here, okay? Now, if we were to go ahead and go to here and notice we have another file right here called application. We double click on this application right here and nothing else happens. We get something that tries to open up, or at least that's what it looks like to us, but it's not actually trying. It's actually opening up, running a program, and closing right back up as soon as it opens up. How do we stop that from happening? Cherno's YouTube videos actually explain how to get that to work in his early videos, I believe. Specifically, this section right here. The C++ courses that he has, 115 courses. Very useful. So, what he has done to get it to stay open is instead of having, well, he'll even have the return right there, I think. I can't remember. Let's close this down. Close out that. Something you might get used to. So we have the return right here. We don't know what this is yet. We do not know what return 0 end of statement is. But we can add this. In this sense right here, since we have the using namespace std, we're going to go and keep that up there for now and stuff. I'll show you later on and stuff why that's a bad idea to keep that up there. But depending on what your program is and stuff, you can use it or you don't have to. But this is the code that's going to keep that window open for us. Again, it's another statement, so you got to close it off with the semicolon. This right here is going to, from what I understand, it's trying to get something. It wants to get some sort of input. So CIN is character input, whereas COUT is character output. I think we might get into that with the W3 schools, but I'm not sure. But we're trying to get something, okay? So let's save that the way it is, okay? Open up our file again, and now, if we do this, nope, it still doesn't work. Why not? Well, let's play with it and figure out why. So we're not going to close that down. We're just going to minimize that. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the return right here. And save it again. Go back to our file source. Nope, nothing. Why not? Okay, so let's look at something else. This right here has both those in it, the application and the code source itself. What if we were to, and this is just, like I said, I don't remember how I figured this out. I wish I did, but I don't. Let's go ahead and debug it first. We're going to use the G++ to debug it first. Okay, why did we do that? We did that to create the VS Code, the .vs code right here, which gives us the JSON file. And I'm not sure if there's actually a video that explains all that or not, how that works, what that does. Like I said, I don't remember how I figured this one out. Can't remember if it was AI or Cherno's videos or what, but now we got the JSON file right here and stuff. So now if we click on this, it does open up. Again, still playing with this. So we got this right here, which is the same thing that pops up in the terminal down there. Close that back out, downsize this. What if we add a return back to it? Return 0. And you notice that the code that we've been using in this, we'll go back one, it does have that return 0 in it, but it doesn't explain anything about it yet. So now we got this in there. We'll go ahead and save this, and we'll do this again and see if it still works. Yes, it still works. Okay, so the missing piece that we were actually looking for to get an actual separate window open up like this right here was this .vs code and then the JSON file right there. That's what we were missing. It had nothing to do with our code at all, except for adding this right here line to it. Why is this line important? Because when we go to open this up, the program is not finished yet. This right here line finishes the program. But because this is waiting on something, on us to do something, it actually doesn't finish the program yet. I'm going to try to. I don't think I can. There we go. Yeah. So the program is not finished yet because of that line right there that's highlighted. In this right here window, to close this out, yes, we can hit the X button, we can hit the minimize, we can do all that sort of stuff. But to close this out, because this is what was trying to appear, but the program would run really quick, shut down, and you would hardly see it come up. But because of this line of code right here, we have the window open now. We hit the enter button, and that window goes away now. Because when you hit enter, that's what it gets. So that's kind of how that works. So we don't necessarily right now, learning basics, we don't necessarily need that window to open up. We need to learn more about the body of this right here. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this code, line of code. We are also going to go ahead and remove this file because we don't need it right now, as well as this folder, to where we are back to our basics. If we go to try to open this up again, yeah, it's not going to open up. It's not going to stay open. It's going to pop open, run the program, close back up. But we're not worried so much about getting a window to open up. We're more worried about learning how to write the code and see what we can do with it. Right now, the only thing we can do is write text, do math equations. How is this important? Well, we're going to have to get through a lot more of this right here in order to understand why this is important. So, moving on to our next step, comments. Comments can be used to explain C++ code and make it more readable. It can also be used to prevent execution when testing alternative code. Comments can be single line or multiple line. Okay, so let's keep moving on. Single line comments first. Single line comments start with 2 forward slashes. Okay, so I'm going to move down past the code here for a second. 2 forward slashes. So this right here would be a comment. What is a comment though? Any text between 2 forward slashes and the end of the line is ignored by the compiler. So when the compiler or the translator to write the code into the terminal or into its separate window, it's not going to put this right here in there. But it doesn't put most of the stuff in. In fact, the only thing it really puts in right now is this, and this. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is the compiler needs all this right here in order to put this right here into it. It does not need this. This right here is just for us or other people reading our code. It's going to ignore this. It's not going to be part of the code itself. Okay, so we got an example right here. It simply says this is a comment. So let's go ahead and put that in there. This is a comment. Done. Go ahead and save that like that. Let's go ahead and run the code. We're not going to open up a separate window. We're just going to keep putting it down here in the terminal right now and stuff because that's all we want to see. So it does not have that in there. We just have our 3 lines right there. In fact, we don't have any of the rest of the stuff in here, but the rest of the stuff is kind of given this structure. The end line is separating it to a new line. This out right here is actually outputting it to the terminal. This is all inside of a body of a function, which we haven't really discussed so much. We know we're using this right here, so we don't have to keep typing std in front of this right here or this right here. And notice how it highlights all that stuff. That's part of VS Code. There's other editors that do the same thing. Notepad does not. So it's highlighting all the same kind of code. Even when you do this right here, it highlights all those little sections right there to tell you where it all is. It's very handy in the future. But so, yeah, all this code right here is just giving us structure for this little bit of code right here. I can't really highlight that separately, but so we know how to do comments. What are comments for then? This example uses a single line comment at the end of a line of code. Okay, so we can put a comment at the end of the line of code. So let's do that. It's forward slash forward slash. This is a hello statement. Okay, so now let's maximize this real quick for a second. So now we got a comment right here at the end of this to tell whoever this is just a hello statement. You can do another one right here. And yes, we're putting spaces in there to make it easier to read. This is a math problem statement. But it's really not a statement because a statement doesn't end until here. So having this part right here in there makes this actually false. So simply having this as a hello, this is a math problem. This is a goodbye, and the end of the statement because of the semicolon right there. So now we can add this part to it right here, and it would be true. The rest of it's we can't have it in there because we don't have a semicolon that ends the statement. So this is a hello, this is a math problem, this is a goodbye, and this is the end of the statement. This right here part just refers to this right here little bit. So why use comments? So we understand. This is a hello. We don't need this comment in here. This is a math problem. We don't need this comment in here. This is a goodbye. We don't need this comment in here. This is the end of the statement. We understand that with this right here. So why do we need comments? Let's go back to this right here. Multi-line comments. Okay, so if you want to write multi-line comments and stuff, there's another way of doing that too. So let's go ahead and get rid of all of this. Like I said, we don't need this. Why we even have comments in here, we haven't figured that one out yet. But currently we don't need this right here. There is a good reason to have a comment in there, but we haven't gotten to that part yet. Good. Just simplify the heck out of the code. But we can also do multi-lines. Okay, so multi-lines, they look like this right here. Okay, so a multi-line, let's go back down here. So it's a forward slash. Okay, so when we write that and stuff, the forward slash and the star, I did not put the cursor stopped where I stopped. So the rest of it got added in there automatically. Okay, so we can type whatever we wanted to there. Great. What is it for still? Multi-line, no, but this is multi-line. So how do we do multi-line? Can we just keep going? And all I'm doing is hitting enter and adding more to it and it's staying common. Okay, so that's how multi-line works. So if we want to do multiple lines and stuff, we can do it like that. Excuse me, sorry. Can we put that multi-line up here? Actually, we can, but we're going to have to manipulate it a little bit. So there is a way of doing it, but we're going to have to manipulate it a little bit. So we can't just simply put the forward slash, this right here. We get that, but if we hit enter now, that's not what we want. We don't want it to push the line down, but we want it to go down to the next line. How do we do that? Okay, so we're going to have to be a little bit creative with this. We're going to have to get rid of that right there. Move down to the next line. If you notice, all this got commented out now. Space, 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 space. Line it up. Put the star back in there. I don't remember exactly how I figured out this one either, but put more code in there. Now we got 2 lines. Go down to the next line, line it up again, put another star in there, put more comments in there, go down to the next line, tab, 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 tab. Let's keep going. How do we get this to work to where we want to keep that? Well, in the beginning of this and stuff, like down here, this has this in it. So this starts it, this ends it. So what if we end it right here instead? Well, that commented out all this, but not this, and so it's not really working the way we want to. Here's the thing about it. You can have multi-line comments, but you cannot put the multi-line comments right here. You'd have to put individual lines here. You can have a multi-line comment between code lines, but not right there. So this right here will actually not work because it's actually still commenting out this. This right here continues on to the next line. It doesn't matter where this starts. It's still continuing on. It finally ended right there and it released this right here part. So if you want a multi-line comment in your code, and again, we still haven't figured out why we want it. Yeah, I'm going back through here and clearing all this out. Oops. Okay. Put a little space right there and stuff. If we want to add multi-line comments and stuff, we can add it right here. / star and then there. And it doesn't actually comment out this. We got the comment right here, but what's the difference between that and doing that? Nothing. But if we want to do the multi-line comment, we can put this right here, up here, and it just puts a bunch of space right there. It didn't add the first one there. Sorry. There we go. Now we got a bunch of space here, and we got a multi-line comment right here and stuff separating all this. Again, we still don't know why there's comments, why we need to have comments in there yet. There is a reason. We just haven't gotten to them yet. Right now, we're just learning about comments. The fact that we can put comments in, take comments out, how to use them. Here is a good idea. Let's put a comment right here. Okay, we're using this, instead of typing. Now I'm doing multi-line, but I am doing it differently than what it was shown. Okay, so it doesn't interrupt my code. We're using this instead of typing std colon at the front of cout and endl. Okay, there's a multi-line comment right there. It's not the same though, because this right here actually is a single line on each different line. I am just making sure that it's not affecting my code at all whatsoever. And I am explaining this right here part, but we need this to be a little more readable because we think that this right here might be part of this right here. But even though we're explaining this, we got this multi-line comment right here, multiple lines of comment to explain just this right here, but we don't want it to affect the rest of this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and delete. I'm going to rewrite our code here a little bit. Go back up to here, enter, and put a space there, tab all the way to here. Put another line of code in there and stuff, and keep explaining what this is doing. Enter again, and that way, now that using the enter button is actually just coming down to the next line and stuff, but keeping it all lined up. This way, this right here actually explains this. And when you get to this, it's no part of this whatsoever, and it's still not affecting our code. This explains why we're using this right here and why we don't have it in front of here. So instead of typing std : in front of cout and uh, and L inline. So now this right here is explaining why this doesn't have this right here in it. So there's a good reason to use a comment right there. It's not a very good reason, but it is a reason. If you have code that's doing something that somebody else may not understand, you might want to put comments in there to explain what that code is actually doing. That way, when somebody else reads your code, especially if you're working with a team of people and stuff that's trying to build a big project, a game, an application, a program, it doesn't matter what it is. When you go to write the code, and I've never had to do this because right now nobody else is messing with my code, I put it in there and stuff to help me to understand what the code is actually doing. Just like in this particular instance and stuff, using namespace std. When I first started, I didn't understand exactly what that was doing, so I would put that code in there and stuff, and to help me remember it. This right here is using std right there, so I don't have to keep writing out std : cout std : inline, so forth and so on. But yeah, when you're working with a group of people and stuff, if you build a code or whatnot and it does something specific and only you would understand it, then you might want to put a comment in there and stuff so everybody else that goes to read the code, it tries to add to your code to make a full program or application or game or whatever work and stuff. You might want to put comments in there so they know what the code is actually trying to do. That way they can build onto it. Okay, so we're at the end of comments. Comments ain't very big. Let's move on to the next thing, variables. This one's going to be kind of a big one right here. Okay, variables. Variables are containers for storing data values. In C++, there are different types of variables defined with different keywords. For example, keywords. So it's kind of giving me a nightmare. Here, keywords right here. Big one, keywords. Let's put this down here as a comment. Keywords. How many keywords are there? Well, there's a huge list of about 100 keywords. And every one of them have a different definition because they all do something different for the most part. Some of them are used with each other, others are not. Some of them are used for something completely different. But those are keywords. Not to mention the fact that you get down here a little farther and stuff, we have additional keywords that do something completely different that I have no idea. So we're getting into really unknown exploration territory right here. Okay, so in C++, there are different types of variables defined with different keywords. For example, int stores integers, whole numbers without decimals, such as such and such and such. Okay, so our first keyword here. First, yeah, we'll just go ahead and put keywords here. First being int. Okay, notice I'm using now comments like crazy. I'm using comments and stuff to help me remember this stuff. This is for me personally and stuff, not for anybody else. Everybody else is going to understand this, but since I don't understand code or C++ and stuff, I'm going to start using comments to help me remember by typing it out, saying it out loud, reading it multiple times to remember what this stuff is. So our first keyword, int. Definition. Stores, W3 Schools definition. Stores integer or integers, whole numbers without decimal, such and we're running into, so let's keep that, go to the next line, keep going. Such as 1, 2, 3, or negative 1, 2, 3. Our first keyword, integer, stores integers, whole numbers. They are whole numbers. Any whole number without a decimal point, such as 1, 2, 3, or negative 1, 2, 3. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative positive 1, positive 2, positive 3. And yes, you got to refer to it as positive and negative. And there's a reason behind that. We won't get to that right now, though. So that's our first keyword. Second keyword. Second, double. Stores floating point numbers with decimals, such as 19.99 or negative 19.99. Okay, so now we got two different things here. We got a keyword known as integer, which stores a whole number, anything that without a decimal, pretty much, positive or negative. And then we got a double, which is a floating point number, which stores numbers with decimals. So integer is for whole numbers, no decimals, positive or negative. Double is for uh, numbers with decimals, 1999, 19.99, or negative 19. So both these can be positive or negative. Integers can only be, can't have a decimal in it, or floats can have decimals. It does not specifically say that we cannot, that we have to have a decimal in there. So can a double actually be a whole number? It doesn't specifically say. It does say with decimals, but it doesn't specifically say that it cannot. I mean, a double doesn't have to have one. We'll get into that later on. Just know that right now, if you want an integer value and stuff, yes, you can have positive or negative and stuff number, but it cannot have a decimal in it. A double and stuff, it can have a decimal in it. It could still be positive or negative. Next keyword. And now we're using comments like crazy. Char. What is char? Actually, let's write third, which is char. Stores single characters such as A or B. Char values are surrounded by single quotes. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I did mention in another video and stuff that there was a difference between a double and a single quote thing. In this particular instance, this is where that importance plays a hand. We haven't gotten to the rest of it yet, so let's go ahead and finish up the rest of these keywords first before we get too much into detail with that. I just want to mention the fact that now we got a use for a double quote and a single quote, and that there is a difference between them when doing this. So, next keyword. Comment. Fourth keyword is string. Stores text such as double quotes, hello world, period. And I'm just reading this directly off of the website here and typing it out and stuff. That way it gets imprinted better into my memory, because just reading it once real quick is kind of, like I said, it's kind of the same thing as going into a store, saying hello to somebody, introducing you, saying my name is such and such, you get their name. You get out to the car, you start talking about something completely different. 5 minutes down the road, you have no idea you met that person because you don't even remember it. And even if you did, you may be trying to remember what their name is and you can't remember what their name is. So doing this multiple ways, saying it out loud, reading it, typing it, is helping to build a structure in your mind of the memory. Okay. String values are surrounded by double quotes. We just mentioned this. We have a use for single quotes and double quotes now. The fifth keyword we're going to be discussing next is bool. Stores values with two states, true and false. So we got all these 5 different keywords here. I'm going to even break this up into a little bit better context so it's easier to read. So we're going to put a space right there. Actually, we're just going to put a tab right there. Tab right there. Tab, 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 and tab. That way we can kind of see these a little bit better. In fact, go ahead and put a space right there. There we go. Readability. This is where the readability and stuff comes in play, having an actual tab right there. In fact, we can add another space to these and stuff to kind of single them out a little bit better. Because now we have the idea that we have 5, and very much easier to see now, because it's separated a little bit, 5 different keywords, int being one, double, char, string, boolean, or bool, as keywords, and kind of a definition. Integer stores whole values, something without a decimal, positive or negative. Double stores any value with with or without a decimal. Like I said, we haven't played without the decimal yet. Char, basically a single character. So char is just a shortened name for character. Instead of typing this all in and stuff, we're just going to shrink it down to 4 words and stuff, and that'd be basically character. This requires a single quote for a letter. Now, here is a thing that this does not mention. Like I said, this is why this is not a full definition and stuff, because I know that this is not 100% accurate. Stores single characters. Yes, that's true. Such as these right here. Yes, that's true too. Char values are surrounded by. Yes, that's true too. But it's not gotten everything involved. Okay, because right now, my assumption at this point in time, during my journey, I'm just thinking a character is only letters. And that's not true. It's not only letters. In fact, these letters and stuff is not even all of it. That's one of three different sides to this box. Just like with double right here and stuff, one of 2 sides. Does it have to have a decimal in it, or can it be without a decimal? And what makes it different at that point in time than this? We'll get to that. Strings store text. Okay, so this is a string. It's a line of text. It's in double quotes, just like right here, and it's highlighting both right there. So that is a string. Text, such as hello world. Yes, we got it marked up. String values are surrounded by double quotes, and yes, both these are surrounded by double quotes. That's why they're both highlighted. This one's the same way, except for we just don't have this down here anywhere. Now, this one right here is not a string because it's not surrounded by double quotes, which is why we were struggling to get a new line out of this right here. We can put new line at the end of the quotes. We cannot do it to an end of a math equation without having it in quotes, but you can't put it in quotes because then it's going to think it's a string. And it's going to print 5 plus 5 times 2. It's not going to give us our solution. And then bool stores values with 2 states, true or false. Okay. Again, not the best definitions, but it works for a beginner. It worked in my case and stuff, but I still had a lot of questions after I read this and stuff, which is why I've got so many sources up here of information. So let's get started with the first thing. The next part of this, declaring and creating variables. To create a variable, specify the type and assign it a value. Okay, so we got syntax right here. Basically, the way this should be structured. Type, variable name, equals value. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add to this line of code right here, but we're going to put some space in there. So type, and we got our 5 different types, so we just pick one. Let's start with integer. Int, that's a type. Okay, variable name, we need a name for it. It doesn't specifically say how to do this. I mean, it will get into it later on and stuff, but it doesn't specifically say how to do this. So we got a type right there. Where type is one of C++ types, such as int, and variable name is the name of the variable, such as x or my name, the equal sign is used to assign value to the variable. Okay, so that is kind of complicated to understand. So we got our integer right here, the first part of that. Second part of that right there. We're going to go ahead and put some space down here. Scroll back up here a little bit for integer. The first part we got is the type. Our syntax for the way this needs to be structured. Type, variable, name equals value. And like I said, I'm not really teaching this stuff. I am refreshing my mind on how this stuff works. Back when I went and did. Why is that looking like that? Why is this? Okay, because that's not finished. Okay, so here's something. You start writing code, okay? And you got this right here in here. This is messing up your other code. You right now can't run the program and stuff because you got this type sitting right here by itself with nothing in there. So you write a little comment right here. You can have it in a couple different ways like this too. So the first comment, learning how to use type int. So there's your first comment right there. Second comment, so it doesn't mess with your other code, we comment it out. So right now it's just a comment. It's not actual code. So it doesn't mess with the rest of it. So we can literally still run our code and still get the same response we've always been getting so far. And it's not messing with our thing any. This works really good when you create new code and you are trying to figure out why it's not working. So you write new code, you have this original code, you start to write new code, you save it, you run it, and it's not working. In fact, you're not getting this anymore at all either. Simply put the comments in front of the new lines of code and stuff to see if something else had changed. Run it. Okay, now we're getting the same thing, so it's something wrong with our original code. So now we can uncomment it simply by doing that and try to make adjustments to it to see if it'll work. It's especially handy and stuff if you just wrote like 25 lines of code and your code's not working down here, so you might just like slowly comment out one line at a time to see if you can't pinpoint the exact spot where the code's not working. I believe this is known as debugging your code, where you are trying to find out where your code has gone wrong. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. So here's our syntax. In fact, let's go ahead and mark this as a syntax. The way our code should be or it's our statement, code statement, yeah. How to structure new code with types / syntax, because that's what syntax is. The way the code should be structured for it to work. And what we mean by this, what I mean by this and stuff, in a sense, because I've played with this enough times, you have it in this order right here. This is the syntax order, the way it's supposed to be structured. can we do variable first, then type, then equals, then value? No, will not work. How about value first, then type, then actually, sorry, equals type, then variable. I forgot to put that at the beginning of this. No, this will not work either. Why will it not work? Well, syntax is basically the idea of the compiler understanding how this should read. You wouldn't, an example of this, you wouldn't really say, so the proper syntax for this would be learning C++ code language. Okay, that's our syntax right there. Incorrect syntax. Code C++ language learning. Now, this doesn't make sense to humans. At least not to me anyways. Does not make sense. How about language C++ code learning? No, sorry, it doesn't make sense either. So that's the syntax right there, the structure, the way it's meant. Okay, so for us and stuff, this line right here makes perfect sense. We understand what it is. This line right here, no, it doesn't make any sense. Code plus language learning, what does that mean? I don't understand it. And if you're going to say something like that to me, I'm probably just going to walk away. Honestly, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're saying, what you're trying to say. And I'm not going to stick around to try to figure it out either. I'm not going to try to decipher what you're saying. This one right here the same way. Language plus C++ code learning. No, I'm not going to stick around to try to figure out what you're talking about, what you're saying. Using the correct way, the compiler is going to do the same thing. If you write it like this, the compiler understands it. If you try to write it like this, the stuff the compiler's going to just throw you errors like crazy, and it's never going to work. Same thing with this. It's not even going to argue with you about it. It's going to be like, I don't understand this, sort of thing. And yeah, I'm not highlighting it all and stuff, but just you understand that putting it in the right structure, the right syntax, the right form, the right way and stuff so it can be read and understood makes a huge difference. So that's kind of the explanation of syntax, which is something we discussed in another video or a few lessons earlier in this and stuff. Putting it in the right form is the only way the compiler, the program, whatever you're doing, makes sense. If you don't put it the right way, it won't make sense. It won't work properly. So, first we got our type. Okay, so we've discussed, and I'm going to clear all this out right here real quick, because you understand that now. We've got the type, which we're using int for that. Okay, so next we need variable. Variable name, actually. Well, it's using variable name. We may not. Let's just get to this real quick and I'll explain that. And variable name is the name of the variable such as x or my name. Okay, so variable name. So the variable name can be pretty much whatever we make up for it, I think. Variable name is the name of the variable such as x or so x can be it. My name can be it. Variable name can be it, obviously. It doesn't specifically state that, but yeah, we can pretty much use whatever. I mean, you can come up with whatever name you want to. Here's the thing about this, though. This is where comments can kind of help too, as well. If you're writing a program to do something, you have the type right there, and you have, and we haven't got to the value yet, but you have a value and stuff. What is the value representing in this case? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to that, and we'll come back to this right here. The equal sign is just assigning the value to the variable. Okay, so if our integer can be a whole number, okay, and we can make up any name we want. Let's start with x, like it has right here. We're going to go and uncomment this x, and like it says, use the equal sign to assign it. So equal sign, and then let's go with number 2. Right here, type integer whole number 1, 2, 3, or 3, or whatever, anything positive or negative. So we can have 2, we can have -2, -3, 7, we can have 500. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different options right there. The question is, this name right here is X. What does this represent? Is it a measurement? Is it number of people in a building? Is it the number of buildings on a street? Is it the number of cars you have in your driveway? What does it represent? In this case, we don't actually have a representation of it, so we're just going to use X and say that X is the variable name. Now, can we use variable name? Yes, we have a bunch of options right here, millions of options. We have my name, we have uh, variable name, and I will explain why we're using lowercase and uppercase here in a little bit and stuff. We have um, I mean, here's one thing that you cannot do with the name. You have a lot of options, but you don't have this option. Cout. Okay, now we got a little error right here. This is because we haven't actually closed off this statement yet with the semicolon right here. So right now this is an open line of code that is not closed off, so it thinks that all this right here is the same statement, and it doesn't make any sense. So we need to close this off. Let's go ahead and close that off then. Now it's an end statement, and now we get to this right here part. Why did that do that? Ah, yes, I know why. Okay, so this is exactly why. So most people, when they use this right here, go away. When they use this right here pops up, and now we're getting the same thing right there. This is where the problem of this lies in place, and I learned this off of, I think, multiple different sources. Okay, we can't use count, cout. We can't use it because it's being used right here, so it thinks that this right here is supposed to be this part of this, which is part of this. This is a whole jumbled mess right here. So instead of using this right here right now, I know we got it up here, but instead of using this right here right now, and I know the examples are still using, we're going to go ahead and delete that, get rid of all this line of code right here, put it in here properly, because now we got issues right here too. And this is part of starting with the issues. I mean, you got issues right off the bat and stuff because you're trying to use the word count, cout. And it's not working because of the fact that you got cout already being used. It's a keyword. Now it's not a keyword. Now we can use out right here. And yes, it's the same thing as this, but the program knows that this right here belongs to this right here, and this does not because we're not using this up here anymore. That is why that is kind of bad in the program. But if you're not ever using this right here, then yeah, it's fine to have it up there and have this throughout the entire thing. Maybe leave a comment up there saying I use this right here and stuff, and I don't have its position anywhere else, but still. It's just better off and stuff to label this as what it is. It could be a count. Count of -5,000 or count of +5,000. Of what? We have no idea. That's why the comment might be kind of useful right here in this state. So there is are syntaxed right there. In this sense, we have a type. Type is int variable, which is a name, is count, and using the equal, and yes, I know I'm going off here. Let's go ahead and enter backspace. Nope, there we go. Is count. Next, yep. Next is the equal sign. So the count equals something. And then the actual value, which is 5,000. So count is 5,000. So in a sense and stuff, if you want to think about this in a mental aspect of it and stuff, count is 5,000. Okay, so if you were to think about it this way, 5,000. We just don't have the word count in there now. But will this work? No, it won't, because the compiler doesn't understand it. We're doing that in our head, and that doesn't work for the compiler because the compiler's like can't read our mind. So we have to have something in here. I'm going to go and replace this with x. So that's how you can think of that. X is 5,000. All right. To create a variable that should store a number, look at the following example. Example, create a variable called my name. So now we're going to use their example right here. So now we're going to erase everything we just did right here and use their example in place. So my num equals 15. And of course we end it right there. Now here's something else that they're showing. This they don't really explain. What is this right here line of code? Let's go ahead and make some space right here. They're using this line of code right here, and I know you can see it better on my screen, which you can on theirs because it's so small. They're using this out, which is actually that right there. This right here, my num, and then closing it out. So they're using that right there. They didn't explain that. What is that? Okay, create a variable called my num of type integer and assign it a value 15. We've done that. What's this right here next part? Why is that even in there? Okay, so if we look at this right here, it doesn't really explain it in there either. So this is kind of pointless right here again. To explain this and stuff, we are simply outputting. I need to fix this right here again. Sorry. Oops. Okay. Control save. We are simply doing this right here, and it's mainly because it hasn't explained this part of it yet. But we are doing the same thing with this right here as what we did with all this. Okay, so if we want to know what, or test this code out and stuff to find out what this is, like I was showing you before, replacing this with 15 and stuff is the same thing as what this is. So let's see it in action here. So my num. And then let's go ahead and add that new line in there again. So we're going to make it look the same as the rest of them. Okay, and then save it. Now we got this in there. So we got one string right here, which we discussed in what the types were and stuff, an equation right here, this right here, which is coming from this, and I mean, it's kind of hard to understand without just seeing it in action. So that's what we're doing. We're putting it in action. They have this right here. We're going to add it to right there. We've already saved it. Let's run it. Look at that. We got 15 twice. So let's change one of them just to see a clear picture of it. We're going to change that one. Even though they have 15, we're going to put 25 in place instead. And again. Okay, so my num is actually this right here. So even though the code sees this right here, it's actually this right here when printed out. So that means that even though you use this code word, this name right here, when it's printed out to the terminal or window, you're going to end up seeing 25. So for the code, it's the name. For visual effects, it's 25. Best way I can kind of explain that part right there. So I was trying to think if there was another aspect to this to see. Yes, there is. My num is not in double quotes. Why is that? Well, because my num is actually not a string. It's not a character or anything like that. It's actually a value. It's actually this right here. And it's no different than this right here is. So 25 is the same thing as this right here. So it doesn't need to be in a string or in quotes because it's not actually a word. It will not represent a word when it comes to the terminal or output or window or whatever. So in your mind, yes, you would replace it. Compiler sees this right here and says, okay, well, it's not my num, it's this right here. So it understands the code that away. Okay, next line. You can also declare a variable without assigning the value and assign the value later. Okay, so this right here is telling us that we can declare it, which we haven't really, I mean, it is going through declaring, so we declared it and gave it a value right here. In this sense right here, we're declaring it but not giving a value right off the bat, so let's see what that looks like here. Create some space here. Okay, so int, let's call this one x instead of my num. And do that right there because that's what the code is showing. And then down below x, and we're not going to use 15 or 25 this time. We're going to use something else. We're still going to have the equal sign in there. We're going to have 50. And then again, by the example, we end it and stuff. Okay, so this right here is saying that we can declare it without actually giving a value. So we can remove this part right here from it and have the same outcome. And then put this part down here and put x in front of it, so then it becomes the same thing. So these two lines are literally the same as this one line. Why would you do that though? You know, that you're going to get into later on and stuff, but right now we're just seeing that just like when we rewrote this several different ways, this all can be rewritten several different ways too. This right here can all be rewritten several different ways, just like what this was done. We rewrote this several different ways in previous videos, and now we're doing the same thing with this. Is there any more to that? Changing the variable. Note that if you assign a new variable, note that if you assign a new value to an existing variable, it will override the previous value. Okay, so now we got new code here again. Let's see, let's give it some more space here. So their example, I'm going to put y in this time, equals 100. Okay, and then they got some comments right here. So let's go ahead and add the comments just for fun. Y is 100. Next line, Y equals, and then they got a different number there, so let's go with 200. End it, put another comment here. Y is, okay, now, no, let's put it the way they got it. Now, Y is 200. So the only thing we're doing that's different from them is we just don't have the same name variable. which tells us that we have a lot of options for names, and we're not using the same value. We don't know what the value actually represents, though, so I mean, that's why we're using X and Y, because they can be anything really. But the first value they start off with is 15. The second value they go to is 10. Well, we're using 100 and 200 and stuff, and in this case and stuff now, what is Y? Is Y 100 or 200? Well, according to what they're saying and stuff, we are overriding it with the next line. Since the compiler reads from top to bottom, it's going to read that Y is 100 first, and it's going to change Y to 200. So now Y is now actually 200 and not 100. So let's play with this a little bit. Actually, we're just going to go and create a new line, and then we'll play with it in a second. So now we need Y. And we're going to go ahead and print X as well. X. We're going to go and put these on two different things here. So standard NLD Y inline. Okay. Control save. So what we have done here is we have literally put two lines together and stuff. Instead of, I mean, it's just the same thing as taking this right here and putting it up here with this. We've got 5 lines right here, but it's still just one line. We just keep separating everything after we do it. So hello world separated at a new line, a math problem separated with a new line, a variable name separated with a new line that represents a certain value, another variable name with a new line represents a certain value, another variable name with a new line represents a new value, and again, again, again. Okay, so we've got this saved. Let's go ahead and clear this terminal out, and then we'll run this program and see what we come up with. Look at that. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. Well, we got 6 new inlines. There's 4 right there and 2 more over here. And we were stating what each thing means. So we know that hello world actually is hello world because it's a string. We know that this math equation and stuff, 5 plus 5 times 2, well, basic math and stuff, you do order of operation. 5 times 2 first is 10, plus 5 is 15, so that's 15 right there. My number, my num, is being represented by 25, so we're going to end up printing 25 to the console because it's actually not my num, it's actually 25. X, in this case right here, even though we declared X and we didn't give it a value off the bat, we gave it a value in the next line. So X is 50, so X right there, there's 50 right there. Y the same way. Integer Y equals 100. But then we changed it in the next line to Y is now 200. So now we got 200 here, and the 100 has gone away. Where did it go? I don't know, but it's not there. So, and then the final line, goodbye. Okay. So that is the end of declaring those. Okay, other types. A demonstration of other data types. My num equals 5, integer, floating number without decimals. And now we're just going through and kind of refreshing ourselves on some of these, on all these things and stuff, even though we've only shown the example of integer type, not any of the others. We are inching our way through the basics in this process. I mean, this has been an hour in just this video alone, and the only thing we've covered is declaring a variable. And which is also why 6 months of me sitting here at my computer studying C++ has only gotten me this far because of how much it actually contains. I'm literally out in the front yard. I mean, just imagining myself out in the front yard counting every blade of grass and stuff, and every day I have to go out there and stuff, and I only get through one more row at the end of the day after spending 8 to 10 hours on it a day. Whew. It's a lot of work. Is it easy? There was a statement that said it was. And we haven't even gotten through a whole lot of it yet. And so far, we're just, I mean, look at this. We gotten a grand total, and I know this is a lot of comments and stuff, 64 lines of code. If we get rid of all these comments here, clear up to here, we got 20 lines of code. Get rid of these comments right here, we still got 20 lines of code. And we haven't done anything yet. We haven't created, I mean, we've created a program, but the only thing this program is really doing is stating what my num is, what x is, what y is, what new value of y is actually, printing out a word, actually a couple words, and doing a math problem. So we know that C++ can do math problems. It can print out text. It can represent values, whatever values we want. And we've only gotten to declaring values. We haven't even gotten to, what was the next part? The other types. Uh, double, my floating number, so floating point decimal. So double being 5.99 as a refresher and stuff, because we've only dealt with integers. Char being D this time instead of lowercase a or uppercase b. String being hello, which we did cover that one right there and stuff, so we can kind of cross that one off the list, that one and integer off the list. And bool, which we haven't even discussed what bool is yet, which is a very much used word. So I think that'll be it for this video and stuff. The next video and stuff, actually, I really would like to finish up this right here. Okay, let's see if we can't get through this really quick. I know it's been an hour and 10 minutes already. Displaying variables. Now we're going to get to displaying variables. The cout object is used together with the output operator to display variables. To combine both text and variable, separate them with the output operator. So integer my name, or my num this time, yes. So now it's actually finally telling us how to put this out. And it's telling us in a way that's going to be a little bit different than what we already have. We'll actually pick up with this on the next video and stuff, because this is going to be a little bit more to demonstrate right here. Because we got a lot right here as it is, and I think we're going to end up scratching all this, since this right here should be concreted in. I mean, it's concreted into my mind, but it should be starting to concrete into your mind as well. So when we pick up this video next time and stuff, we're going to be talking about using the same thing and stuff and outputting and mixing it together. Because right now we just got a string, a math equation, 3 different variables, another string that we're outputting. We're not talking about combining them yet. Every line has something new on it. So I think that's where we're going to stop for right now. In the next video, when I start back up, I will go back through what we've discussed right here. I'll go ahead and keep this right here saved and stuff. That way it's kind of a refresher. This is where we are, and we will start working on putting them together. So again, if you have any comments, questions, want to educate me a little bit on this, because like I said, this is my journey. This is not my education, or sorry, this is my journey of education, but not me educating you. It's how I'm learning how C++ works. And I've been studying it for weeks, months. I think we're on month 3 or 4. I can't remember. 8 hours a day, 10, 12, sometimes 16 hours a day, just depending. I mean, today I can easily go another 12 hours doing this, learning this stuff, because this is just kind of a refresher course. I understand this stuff. I'm able to play with it now, manipulate it, see what it really can do and stuff, since I understand a little bit more of it and stuff, and you can kind of see what I'm doing. But yes, if you have any comments and stuff, please leave them. Hit the like button if you like the video. I know it's quite long. A lot of these videos probably will be long because there's a lot to discuss with these videos. Many other videos that I've watched and stuff are only about 15, 10 to 20, maybe so long and stuff, but they don't get as detailed as what I'm getting with these videos. So I'll stop that for now and see you next time.